Okay, pep talk over. Breakout, same as stressed out by Joy Kwan. Is breakout the same as stressed out? Breakout, that means many things actually. We can break out, as I mentioned before, like about having pimples suddenly appear on your face, a breakout of acne, a breakout of pimples. We could say that somebody broke out of jail. I know a lot of English learners like to watch the Netflix show. I think it's Prison Break. So that's where the prisoners escape from jail. They break out of jail. And actually, there are other ways that we can use breakout, but I think it's not the same as stressed out actually. But it could be something you get from being stressed out. You can have a breakout on your face. Aaron says, too many negative newses. That one, actually, news is non-count. So we'll just say too many negative news stories, or we'll just say the news. Like too much negativity on the news make a lot of people stressed out. I agree, yes. I always go through phases personally of watching the news and being well-informed, and then staying far away from it because it could also stress me out. Okay, very good. Okay, I see so many lovely messages here. I'll read just one more before we move on to our next sentence. Not so well drawing, painting stresses my daughter out sometimes. Oh, yes. So when we want to get good at a skill, meaning get good at is just another way of expressing to, become an expert, to advance in your skill, to, what's another way? Just achieve something in your field. So yes, when you aren't really grasping yet what you need to do and you're not seeing that progress, yeah, that can certainly stress you out. But to Myung-so's daughter, I just say, keep going and practice makes perfect. I'm sure you're excellent at drawing. Okay, our next one is here. Wound up. Some native speakers will say this. It's really similar to stressed out, but again, stressed out is the preferred term, I would say, personally. However, wound up, you can picture something like a spindle, some object like this, and a yarn, and we're winding it up. You could think of like a coil or a spring. So basically, when you compress it and put the pressure, oh, you're so wound up, and then right? You come undone. You somehow have to release your stress. So we could say, oh, I'm just so wound up these days. That means like I have so much stress. I have so much tension. I'm so wound up these days because of X, Y, and Z. So wound up, let's try to make some sentences with that, shall we? Who can try wound up in a sentence? You could say, oh, my boss really winds me up, or my children really wind me up, or I was so wound up because of my husband spending $1,000 on a belt or an article of clothing. I don't know why I said belt. It was the first thing that came to mind. Okay, so wound up. And this is like the same spelling as another word. So wound, W-O-U-N-D means wound. And wound is like an injury or it's like a deep gash. It's just something you don't want to have. It's a pretty bad injury. So same spelling, but different pronunciation. So keep that in mind. It's one of those tricky ones. Wound up. So how can we use wound up in a sentence? I will type it. And it's a state of being. So we became wound up after something. We became wound up after watching TV. Yes. Studying wound me up sometimes, but I should do the right thing. Perfect. You could just say, keep it in the present tense, in the simplest form, like, oh, studying winds me up sometimes, but I should do the right thing. Very good. I'm so wound up, says Gina Park, because of the coronavirus. Perfect sentence. Thank you so much. I'm so wound up because of COVID. Yes. Thank you. I'm going to try to speak Korean. Oh, I'm so bad at pronouncing something sometimes, so please bear with me. I'll just call you A because I can identify the letter A in your name. I'm so wound up, says A, because of the coronavirus. Certainly, as we all are. T. Jenny, she's wound up right now. Oh, T. Jenny, I wonder why. I hope that this broadcast is not making you feel any stress. I don't want to wind you up. She was wound up due to a tight deadline, says Hyunju Kim. Perfect. If my boss gives me a lot of jobs, I will be wound up, says Kyung Sun Park. Also lovely. Oh, this is great. Okay. So we have more formal ways of expressing being stressed out or wound up. We can say, I mentioned this earlier about being under. You could say that you're under a lot of pressure or you're under a lot of stress. Honestly, I think that native speakers use these interchangeably, so we don't need to worry about the subtleties about these two words because they're synonyms. That means they're very similar in nature to each other. So, under a lot of stress, I would love for somebody to use either of these in a sentence, and I'll type it for you as well. Under a lot of pressure or under a lot of stress. I would love to hear what you have to say about that. So the examples could be, my coach put me under a lot of stress to always make the winning shot. I could say that I was under so much I was under so much pressure when I had to perform the national anthem at the baseball game. Oh, Aaron, thank you. I hadn't even thought of it, but you're right. Under Pressure is a Queen song title. I'm a huge Queen fan, so thank you for that reference. I really appreciate it. I'm under a lot of pressure because of or due to the coronavirus, says A. Thank you. Lovely. Apple simply says, I am under a lot of pressure. I wonder why, Apple. I hope that you can relieve that burden, that someone can take that pressure or stress just off your shoulders. Getting older and older, I'm under a lot of pressure. I can relate, yes. Me too, says Aaron. Yes, I really love Queen, and we could talk for a long time. We could talk for ages about Queen. Kang Seung-yeon says, I'll just say Kang. Kang says she cannot draw like before because she is under a lot of stress now. Yes, good sentence. Apple says, I'm under a lot of stress these days. Apple, you are doing so well. You are nailing it. All of your sentences are so perfect. Lovely. T. Jenny says, when you're under a lot of stress, listen to music loudly. That's a great technique. Very good. Yes, Hyunju, very good comment. Many interviewees, and I like that word, tend to be under a lot of pressure during their job interviews. Interviewees, nice. That just means the candidates, the people who are participating in the interview, they're not conducting the interviews, right? The interviewer puts the interviewees under a lot of stress. Excellent. Many people are wound up by the China virus or coronavirus stress, says Joy Kwan. Thank you. Lovely job. Another comment, I've been under a lot of stress due to English. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm under a lot of stress when driving a car, says Ki Byung Kim. Lovely sentence. That's absolutely perfect. And I also can relate. I drive in Canada. I'm always under a lot of stress when I drive in major cities such as Toronto or Vancouver. I live in Seoul, and actually I'm too afraid to drive my car or drive anything in Seoul because it's such a big city, much bigger than the cities I've experienced in Canada because our population is smaller compared to Korea. So yes, I just want to say that driving also stresses me out. Aaron, I'm under a lot of pressure to make a concrete plan for my future. Oh, well said. Yes, we can all relate to that, certainly. Very good. Okay, so I would like to ask you another question. It is here. What are some causes of stress? And I know a lot of you have already spoken about the causes of stress when you're using your example sentences. So I would like to rephrase that sentence and say, what is your primary cause of stress? That means, what's your number one cause of stress? What's the biggest thing that gives you stress? So we could say things such as preparing for an exam, studying English, taking a plane, driving a car in heavy traffic, asking somebody to go on a date. Oh, the list goes on really. So I'd love to hear. So, what is your primary? Because yes, I am editing this sentence. What is, not are, what is your primary, meaning your biggest cause of stress? There, now we have it in the chat. Oh, everyone is saying English. I'm so sorry. Making money, my job, sitting on a chair for a long time. Yes, living a sedentary lifestyle can do that. Money, we have some multiple answers, of course. Money, job, my future. Yes. Oh, those are very important things. So it's understandable why we would be stressed out over them. An unsolvable problem. Oh, I like that. Um, oh, Erin says my mother's forcing me to get married. So like my mother's pressuring me to get married. I'm under a lot of pressure by my parents to get married. Staying alive, LOL. Autumn Story, thank you for the laugh. Yes. And actually, um, we if we look at it seriously, you know, that is an important thing. Like just keeping your body healthy, staying active, fighting off or warding off the coronavirus. What are some others? When my husband buys new electronics, Uni, I really would love to know more about that. Oh, I have a lot of stories to share, but I could save that maybe for another lesson because my dad loves electronics. However, setting them up is another story, and that causes him a lot of stress, which then gives everybody in our family a lot of stress. Similar to IKEA furniture, actually. When you buy something that you need to assemble from the box, oh, that could be stressful. Okay. Someone wants to do something when he or she cannot do anything nowadays and we cannot move to any places. Yes, it's kind of like this feeling of being contained, or we could say we're very claustrophobic. We're restless. We're restless. Some people even have an expression called stir crazy, and that's just that sensation of you really want to do something. You have this frustration because you want to leave your house. You want to go to the movie theater. You want to live your life as you normally would, but you cannot due to the coronavirus. Eunice says, my husband bought a new cell phone. Losing weight makes me stressed out these days because I couldn't work out a lot. Oh, I can relate as well. Again, I mentioned the word sedentary, meaning just I'm not moving my body as much as I usually do. I'm usually sitting down in one place. Oh, excuse me. Nagging some partner. Great word, nagging. I think we've all experienced nagging before from our loved ones, our friends, or we could say our spouses, our husbands or wives. Yes, nagging. They're telling you, do this, do that constantly. When I have to do something I don't want to do. Great. Oh, these are all lovely. All right. So I would like to talk next. I'm going to put this away for a minute. Actually, I will just turn the screen. So about what we can do to relieve our stress. That means what can make us calm down, what can wind us down, what can de-stress us. So I'm going to write these 3 words in the chat room, and we're going to first have a discussion about them. So now we're going to talk about ways to remedy this problem of stress. So how do you, I'm typing the question, how do you relax? We could also say, how do you de-stress? Or what do you do to relax? What do you do to de-stress? What do you do to also wind down? We talked about being wound up. We can also wind down. So how do you relax? How do you de-stress? How do you wind down? It's the same thing as saying, what do you do to relieve your stress? I will type that as well, so we have a reference point. What do you do to relieve your stress? What are some common things? Oh, we have some other messages coming in from the previous section about What stresses you out? Driving a car. I need to drive, says for you, but because I don't want to. I do not want to drive. I do not like driving because of a car accident, either having experienced one before or you're afraid of experiencing one. Okay, well said. Yes, that is an important thing. We need to stay safe on the road. Nagging partner, says Aaron. I strongly agree with that. Okay, everyone, let's keep going now with how do you relax, de-stress, or wind down? I want to hear your methods, and I'll tell you some of mine. Apple, watch a movie and eat popcorn. Yes. Doing what? Doing anything, perhaps? Doing nothing? Some people say doing nothing, just staying calm, not thinking about anything, meditating, doing nothing in a sense. Sleeping is the best in my cases for you. Yes, I relate also. Doing what I love, brackets, sleeping. Sleeping is a great one, it seems. When I want to wind myself down, says Aaron, I usually read books or watch movies. Yes, lovely, lovely pastimes, and they're certainly very calming. Joseph, I drink beer or play games all day. Kongsum Park says, I read a good book. A says, when I speak ill of others. I love that you're honest. Many of us do feel this sense of satisfaction or relief or yeah, like we can release our stress by perhaps gossiping, so speaking ill of others in a way. But gossiping doesn't necessarily mean speaking ill. I guess it could mean just sharing stories about others. But of course, speaking about others in any case is not a favorable thing to do. It's not that kind. But I think we're all guilty of it as human beings. We're social creatures, so I understand completely. Yep, maybe going to the cafe, even meeting with your friends, sharing a latte, and just sharing your life stories together. I go to the swimming pool. Awesome. That's a really great sport. I run away from grouchy people. I love the word grouchy. Grouchy means like grumpy or cranky, easily irritated. I recommend taking a bath to be wound down. Oh, Aaron, great sentence. I recommend taking a bath to wind down. That sounds a little bit more natural, you could say. So I recommend taking a bath to wind down. Great. I eat a lot. I can't go out because of COVID. So I do aerobics watching YouTube for about 25 minutes. Oh, that's great. Home exercises are a great substitute for the gym because we can't really be leaving our homes right now all that often. Grouchy. Grouchy comes up again, so I become grouchy. Maybe you could say, take my stress out on other people, or I snap. Snap is, again, that idea of like being like wound up. You can just break or you could snap, and then maybe you yell at your partner or you yell at your friend or you yell at your dog. So releasing perhaps your anger is another way of de-stressing. Oh, Kim Ki-jong, I hope I said that well. Kim says, how about a horror movie? I like that idea. Yes, I can relate to that. Like people maybe want to escape in the world of fantasy or see a situation that's unbelievable and not at all like their own. As I mentioned before in the last lesson, I really love Bong Joon-ho. So watching some of his more horror style movies or thriller movies, oh, that's a great way to get lost in a story and relieve your stress. Drinking some soju, says Yang Shin-nuk. I hope I said that well. If not, I apologize, and let me know how to say your name properly for next time. Drinking some soju with some people, except people who have caused the something that has stressed me out. Well said, well said. Listening to music. Very, very good. Okay, if I had to answer this question, I would personally say maybe watching YouTube. I enjoy watching YouTube. My favorite streamers, YouTube how-to videos, how to cook a recipe that I'm wondering about. What else? Listening to music on YouTube. I guess I use YouTube in so many ways. Oh, lectures. I can hear lectures from in a variety of different subjects. So yes, I use YouTube as just a way to be entertained, to unwind, to de-stress. And okay, we can say changing my hair color, as well as sleeping. Those are great ways for me to relieve